Hey, my rock and roll family. How are you guys? I put together a rhythm track to go with lesson 6 where we had my two pentatonic scales that I like to use a lot with a connecting scale in between. So this is what it looks like here. Let's see. There we go. So that's what it looks like. And to give you an example what to do with it again, I'm sure, hopefully you guys remember, but with the backing track, and I'll run this backing track for like 5 minutes for you, but this is kind of an example. Taking the first So my daughter asked me if she could play the same thing on her acoustic that we're doing here with hammer-ons and pull-offs, and then pull-off, and the answer is yes. So I'll play a real quick little piece with the acoustic so you can see you can basically do the same thing. On my acoustics I play extra light strings, or I'll put electric guitar strings on it because I practice on the acoustic as well as the electric. And it's kind of cool because I take them to barbecues and, you know, jam with my friends at the river or the beach, and camping. You know, we'll bring these camping and little mini amps, so it's a lot of fun. Okay, so this is with the acoustic. It's gonna be basically that you can play the same thing as the electric. So you get the idea. So enjoy that backing track. Have a great rest of the weekend, and I'll see you guys on the next one, and we'll continue with more positions, more scales, more licks. Okay, see you guys. Okay, here we go. I'll run it for like 5 minutes so you guys don't have to keep rewinding.